Hello, welcome to Retro Cheese Review, where usually I force my friends to watch cheesy movies from my childhood and we review them. Instead, John turned the tables and made me watch a cheesy movie from his childhood. We had around the same years growing up, so I should have seen this, but I just haven't.
Oh,
Say hello to everyone, John.
hello, it is me. I have returned to my rightful place.
Yes, I gave you the applause button because John's videos always. I don't know what it is, John, but your videos always perform the best. Honey, I blew
It,
up the kids video, over 1,000 views now. As you're freezing and yeah, your internet's not doing too good today, it seems like.
oh no, why
It's
is my internet
fine.
garbage
It's
today?
still
Internet,
better.
do better.
It's still better than Rob's.
Of course.
Uh, so you can tell by the title, today we're reviewing Return to Oz. I can't give this a nostalgia review
Oh.
because I never saw it as a child. Thank God. Um, John, I want your nostalgia take. What would you have rated this when you saw it as a kid?
So I will admit that I have very few memories of the movie from my childhood. I
Mm-hmm.
just knew I had seen it, and there were a few parts that really stood out to me. Um, so as a kid, I was probably both at a 2 and at a 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
2 because it was traumatic, but 4 because I loved it.
So we'll split the difference and say 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
I may have saw this in my childhood and just repressed it.
probably.
Like it's a horribly traumatic event watching it.
Hmm.
I say this and I'm like looking at the tomato meter and I'm surprised.
Yeah.
58 critic score, 71 audience score. People remember this as a good movie.
I mean, the parts that are good are pretty good.
Yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen this, a little bit of background on this. Return to Oz is not actually the sequel to the Wizard of Oz movie,
Yeah.
um, which it wouldn't make a lot of sense as the sequel to the movie because the movie came out in the 30s. This came out in 1985. It's actually a sequel. Well, technically, the books were all written in the early 1900s, and the
Hmm.
movie was based loosely on the first book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This was a culmination of the other two
The,
books
mhm.
because it was a book
Which was,
trilogy.
yeah, it was Return to Oz, and I forget the third one. But yeah, they kind of combined ideas from both.
Yeah, but from what I was reading, the director kind of sold it to Disney as being a sequel to
Hmm.
Wizard of Oz and got a shit ton of funding. And he did not spend that funding because for 1985, there could have been way better graphics.
Oh, the graphics definitely, but the puppetry, that's
It
where the
was
magic of this movie goes through.
painted backgrounds.
Yeah,
Paint. How was the one in the 30s better in terms of the tech?
because
In terms of the graphics?
I,
I mean,
I
outside of
mean,
the outside of the guy in the lion costume.
you got to remember that in the 30s, the cinematography wasn't that good, so they could get away with a lot.
Well, it was considered the best of its time.
Oh,
It was the
I know, but if
one
you
of the
watch it,
first color movies ever made.
if no, I mean, just like if you watch it in HD now, you can
Yeah.
see the details that they didn't want you to see because the film wasn't as good back then. So
Yeah.
it's just comparing then to now, the technology allowing you to see. I mean, if you watch it now, you can see the painted backgrounds, where back then you couldn't.
The weird thing getting into this movie that I thought that threw a lot of people off is that Dorothy just looks so much younger in this
So much,
than in the
definitely.
first. But in the movies, or not in the movies, in the book, she's supposed to be a little kid. And the funny
Mhm.
thing is, if you look into it, Judy Garland wasn't that much older than the actress. She just,
Yeah.
1930s, man. It's all them cigarettes they were giving the kids. She looked like she was 30, but she was like pretty sure she was like 15 at the time or something.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, I was looking into it. The actress that plays Dorothy in this,
Hmm.
so I am gonna butcher her name, Firazu
Oh
Balk.
my.
Feruza Balk.
Oh my.
So she's very famous. Has been, you'd probably know her from a bunch of stuff. I had no idea she was a child actress. She's the girl from The Craft. She was
Oh,
the
okay.
boyfriend. She was the boyfriend in the, or not the boyfriend. She was the girlfriend in Waterboy. So is that girl. She's always like a goth kind
Yeah.
of. Yeah, she
Yeah,
always
yeah,
plays kind of
yeah.
a goth, And I was even
Hmm.
joking when I was watching it because I'd found that out. I was just like, I was basically saying, hey, Dorothy, use your craft magic on her, on it. Yeah, diving into like a little bit of it was her. I know one of the people who did TikTok. TikTok is kind of their version of the Tin Man in
Yeah, they kind
this.
of remake all the characters using new characters. But yeah.
Yeah, he's a wind-up man. One of the people is the same person who did Admiral Akbar. I think it
You
was like,
mentioned that.
yeah, I think it was like the same puppet master. I don't know if it's. I'd have to look up if it's the same voice actor or not.
I believe it.
Special effects crew, so probably not the voice actor. Looked him up. He was in Howard the Duck also. Um, but like, yeah, kind of, John, do you want to explain the plot of this one?
The plot. Oh, and then just to warn people, there are some very traumatic moments in this movie. Um, Dorothy in this is supposed to be after the original and has been telling everyone what she experienced and believes is real. And her
A
parents
lot
are
darker than the original. A lot
yes,
darker.
the parents are the wits' end. And so, in desperation, they sign her up for electric therapy, which they don't use the word. They used what electric healing, I
Yeah,
believe,
it's
was the
electric healing. I mean, for that time period, for people who know about it, she's got a social disease. She's lucky that that's the first step. If they
yeah.
after that they yank a little piece of the brain out to put in a jar that you get to keep as a pet.
It's not so bad, Homer. They go into your nose and they let you keep the piece of brain they cut out. Look. Ooh, hello. Hello there. Who's that big man there? Who's that?
And I mean, they take her to basically an insane asylum, and they get right up to the point where they are prepping her for electric therapy. And then the storm happens, power goes out, she escapes through the help of a maybe real, maybe not real friend. Um,
Yeah, and that
and
that
then,
nurse, that nurse, the whole time I was like, that's gonna be the new witch.
yeah,
She was dressed
very,
like a witch.
very much a nurse ratchet feel to her.
Hmm.
But yeah, she escapes, falls into the river that's overflowing from the storm, and ends up back in Oz, and finds out that Oz is no longer what it used to be. It's all overgrown and disheveled, and everyone's gone.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to have been that long.
No, but I mean, for her it was 6 months maybe, but
Yeah.
for Oz, I think they even said it was like 100 years or something.
I realized very quickly watching this that on top
Hmm.
of, because I was like, I had to look up when this was written, the books, because I'd never read the original books versus Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Hmm.
And Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe was like 50 years later. C.S. Lewis not only ripped off the Bible, but he also ripped off the other Wizard of Oz books, like very heavily. It was
Yeah.
very like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe feel, but it was written
Hmm.
first.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like you said, some of the scenery, some of the ideas were cheesy. I mean, she finds a tree that has lunch pails growing in them conveniently.
Yeah. It's like high school theater production, some of it is. And
Yes.
Disney threw a lot of money on that. Like, Disney lost a lot of money doing this.
I mean, yeah, and some of the sets, everyone's frozen, so they put, statues in there. But then
Yeah, they're all
they get
statues now, all of her friends.
Yeah, the whole Emerald City's and
The Emerald
disheveled
City
and
looks like it got like carpet bombed.
yes. And it is overwhelmed with these childhood trauma inducing characters called the Wheelers,
Hmm.
which are just people, grown men with hands and feet have turned to wheels, and they're in these kooky butler costumes. And I think at one point they show them communicating in like bird squawks or something.
It's like a 1980s gang.
Yeah, but like they almost did like the whole raptor call thing at one point.
Yeah.
And then they're constantly giggling and they try and catch her, and she escapes and finds my one of my favorite characters from my childhood, who you mentioned, TikTok. As a
Yes.
child, that character was the coolest thing ever.
He's a
But
cool
yes,
wind up man and a short form Chinese video company.
yes, who has springs literally on his feet for him to walk.
Yeah.
And
I did like TikTok. I'll agree with you on that.
oh, I just the whole appearance of him was just very pleasing, and that's what I mean when I say the puppetry. That thing looked awesome. It moved really smoothly. It
Well,
moved
it
wonky.
was done by a lot of the same people as like the Henson Company and stuff. They hired a lot of those same people for the puppetry.
You,
It's
I
weird
wasn't even
because they
thinking that
spent
while
that much
watching.
on. It's weird because they spent that much on that, but then had painted backgrounds.
Yeah, but yeah, like you when you watch it, it was like, oh, this feels like a Jim Henson work here. But my favorite thing he does is the Wheelers descend upon them, and he just his upper torso starts spinning, and he just literally bitch slaps everybody as he spins around.
He seems like a D&D character you would make.
Yes, I probably have made a character based off him at some point.
Can I ask before we get further in the plot, because you failed to mention the chicken. Where the fuck did the chicken come from? Because Dorothy knows who the chicken is. I don't remember the chicken from the first Wizard of Oz.
Not at all. It is just one of the chickens from the farm, and is randomly
It
there
talks
now.
now.
It talks now
And
because
they didn't
animals
really
talk in Oz.
explain it. But they didn't really explain like how she knows it. I guess it's just a chicken from the farm.
Yeah,
And the bad
and
guys are terrified of the chicken for some reason.
they don't explain it at all until the very, very end. Just that it was the what do you guys the Shorter's chicken? I'm saying it wrong.
Oh no, Schroeder. No, it would be Chekhov's chicken.
Chekhov. That's
Chekhov.
what it is.
There's a chicken here, and they're all afraid of it. I wonder why. It's kind of like the first one. It's like she keeps some water next to her. I wonder why.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that chicken. I don't. That was just a weird little add-on. We don't bring Toto. We bring
Yeah,
the
Toto's
chicken.
not in it except like the beginning and the end.
Yeah,
Toto didn't go to Oz this time.
but yeah, she has the chicken with her for some reason who talks. They encounter a different witch,
Yeah, it's a
who
completely different witch.
may be a princess, maybe a queen, don't know, and has collected a variety of heads that she, on a whim, switches them out.
It's a little weird.
It's really weird. Also, that could be a traumatic scene for kids. Just a hallway of
Yeah,
glass cases full of living heads.
it's the living heads, and yeah, they don't soften you into it. You assume it's Wizard of Oz, so it's good. The most that's gonna happen is we'll see some dude hanging himself, and then instead a bunch of heads everywhere.
Bunch of heads, creepy guys chasing you on wheels. God knows what they'll do if they catch you.
Far
Um,
creepier than the flying monkeys.
yes, they are. And
Less
then
cool than flying monkeys too.
less effective
Yeah,
because those guys can't do stairs.
the first witch was more practical. I feel like.
Yes, yeah, definitely. The first witch was having more fun.
Yeah, this witch seemed a little. The first witch seemed like if I was evil, that's the kind of bullshit I would pull. This witch seemed more like, and I kind of got the first witch. These people are all going around singing all the time, being annoying as shit. Whereas, I
Hmm.
mean, this kid didn't do anything.
Yeah, the witch from this movie, she has won. She won the Emerald City. Everyone is defeated. And so this is what happens when the villain has won and has nothing left to conquer.
Well, when you find out it's not just her that's won, though. She's
Yeah,
still
but I mean,
she's
you know
still
what
an
I mean, though.
underling to the big villain. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but in her territory, there is no one left to conquer.
yeah.
And so this is what
She wasn't the
happens.
witch that was bullied in high school, and had
Yeah.
Glinda as a friend. She's a different one.
Yeah, so she's just in her tower bored and catches Dorothy, locks her in the top of the tower where she discovers one of the creepiest but coolest and like puppetry characters, Jack the Pumpkinhead,
Yeah,
which
the
is just
Tesco
there.
value brand scarecrow.
Yeah, but it has to be reassembled, and the whole reassembly and the moving of the wooden fingers I actually thought was kind of cool for that time.
Yeah.
And then they find out that he was birthed by powder, so they go to take the powder.
Very 1980s of them.
Yes, and get caught in the process, and that head screaming, and then all the other head screaming, also trauma. Run back up to the top and assemble a mix mash of items and
Flying moose.
yes, there's a flying
Moose
green-headed
sled.
moose with palm tree leaves.
Yeah, it's
for
like
its
a broom
wings.
tail.
I just love how the fact that they put the powder on the head, and he's like, "Who am I? What am I doing here? Oh, I'm attached to this now." And they're like, "Yeah, you're alive. Fly."
It's the
He's like, "I don't
1980s.
fly. It's that
You
you
give
do
someone enough magic white powder or anything,
now."
if you know what I mean.
Hey, man, you want to go for a ride? So he flies barely, and they escape, and the Wheelers chase them, and they go over the deadly desert, and a couple of the Wheelers go in, which also causes a really cool for that time period, watching a full body hit sand and just instantly evaporate into sand.
Mm-hmm.
Just disassemble. I don't know that. I remember that part. Like I said, there were only like 5 parts of this movie that I really remember, and that was one of them.
I rewatched it yesterday, and I still don't remember as much as you.
I remember that part. I remember the lady with the heads. I remember TikTok. I kind of remember Jack, and I remembered the electrotherapy,
Yeah.
and that was it. So,
Which you notice the electrotherapy thing looked kind of like TikTok.
yes,
Had
I
a
did.
face. The machine.
Well, the
did.
guy even went through like a minute monologue about how it had a face.
Yeah, he was
That
creepy.
doctor was really like romantically obsessed with that work.
He was giving me the same vibes as the evil scientist in Night of the Comet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, with a little bit more charisma.
More charisma, but just as bad.
Yeah, like that man's gonna do some bad stuff.
I love my work shocking the piss out of children.
God, he goes to bed so well.
Yeah. Having trouble sleeping. Let me electrocute you for a couple hours. You'll sleep.
So yeah, that sorry. I'm just picturing him as like, oh, I can't sleep. Better put the headphones on. It'll knock himself out. So they get over the desert, and then I don't remember how they actually find out about the Gnome King.
Yeah,
The
I
rock
think
guy?
that Jack tells them they're supposed to go there. The Pumpkinhead guy.
Someone tells them that's where they're supposed to go.
And they're like, hey, how do we get there? And it's like, you just keep going straight. And the moose guy's like, well, good thing for that, because I can't turn. He even says you guys didn't do a very good job putting me together.
Yes. And then he starts falling apart halfway.
Yeah.
I think by the end, all he is the moose head and one sofa.
He still has, like, the sofa, towards the end until, the bad stuff happens.
Yeah, I think even that falls off in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get to the mountain, they encounter the Gnome King, who is literally just made of rock. Like,
And I'm pretty sure just
all
like
up.
the witch is played by the nurse, and
Mhm.
from the insane asylum. I'm pretty sure the King was played by the scientist, the guy that ran it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think the Wheelers were played by the assistants
Yes,
because
it's
they have the wheels on that
taking
bed
a
and
little bit
everything.
of from the original Wizard of Oz, how the whole family plays different parts.
Mhm. So they were trying to find the scarecrow, and he admits that he has the scarecrow but turned it into an ornament, and they have to play a game of finding the correct ornament.
And apparently, the Scarecrow was the King of Oz.
He became the king
Yeah, he
after
became
the
the
first
king
film,
after the first film.
and I
And
guess
he's the
guess
only
he
one that
wasn't
wasn't a statue, like because the lion and the Tin Man
the
were
Tin Man.
statues. Yeah,
They made the Tin Man look pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah. So they have to play the game where they go into the room with all the little knickknacks and find the right one. And I don't know if you ever played Prop Hunt, but the moment I saw those knickknacks and they have to find the right one, all of them, then I just made guesses. So like, this is Prop Hunt.
See, I was thinking Indiana Jones,
Oh
and
yeah, with the Grail.
in the Last Crusade, yeah,
That's a
which
good
I think
reference too.
came out. I'm trying to think like when it came out compared to this
Probably a little bit
Last
later.
Crusade.
I want to say that.
89, so 4 years later.
There
Indiana
you
Jones stole from this. Just directly.
go.
Fuck you, George Lucas, you hack.
Finally solved that mystery.
Yeah.
But yeah, they all one at a time go in, they one at a time fail. TikTok decides because he has to be wound up and he can unwind.
Yeah,
So
not just
he
his bot not just one thing. You have to wind his brain up and his body separately.
and he pretends to fake unwinding so that they'll have to send Dorothy in to wind him up, and then he can do his last guess, and she has an advantage, which didn't really help.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey,
But
pretend to wind me up." And then she's like, "No one would fall for that." Like she did a terrible job of pretending to wind him up. She's like a foot from him and she's like, "I'm winding you up." And it's like, "Jesus Christ, kid. Do you want to get caught?"
long story short, she finds the scarecrow in her last try. Um, and that pisses off the Gnome King, so everything starts going to hell and crumbling, and they
Yeah.
frantically find everybody else and restore them.
Yeah, the
Uh,
witch had showed up by then, and he's like, "You let her go," and he's like, and she's all like, "Well, you're the one that didn't kill them instantly."
True.
You forgot to mention the Gnome King has the ruby slippers, and that's how he was able to take over Oz.
Yeah, because they fell off her when she was going home.
Yeah, because she didn't just wake up; she actually like transported back, and they fell off, and they have insane powers to grant any wish.
Yeah. So he like went from this minor villain to a mega villain real
Yeah,
quick.
killed everybody.
I mean, like I said, that's what happens. You leave
Yeah,
bad people unchecked.
yep.
But yeah, then he starts going crazy, gonna kill them all, and that's when he discovers the chicken. And the chicken lays its egg in its mouth, and we find out at the very end that gnomes are definitely the eggs are definitely poisonous to them,
Yeah,
which wasn't
I.
mentioned at all until that
He
moment.
was afraid that the chicken got there, or like the witch was afraid that the chicken was there,
Yeah, but
but
they were
that was
freaked
the
out about it.
reason.
Yeah, but they didn't say that until the very end. They just were like, "Oh, a
No,
chicken."
it's
She
it's the
has
same as like witches being allergic to water in the first
true.
one.
And then he dies. Everybody comes back. Everyone's happy. She goes home, and no one has any problem with her having
The
issues
moose has
with.
a body now. The moose, she wished everyone back, and the moose has a body.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah, the moose is just alive now. Is like a normal moose now.
Oh, and the
Well,
the,
she
the, the
didn't
weird
wish
girl.
the Munchkins back though. She wished everyone back in the Emerald City, but like she's back to like where the Munchkin Land was, and they're all still gone.
That's true.
Yeah, because her thought was like, I want everyone in the Emerald City back. Fuck the Munchkins.
I mean, they weren't very helpful to her in the first place.
You did miss that before she goes back home. You find out that girl that was in the mirror and the one that helped her like escape and shit, that she's the
Hmm.
like the former princess of Oz, like the daughter of the king that was before the Wizard of Oz. Because the wizard, I think, returned back to our world. He's from there. Because they're all wanting to make her queen. They're like, Dorothy, be our queen. And she's like, I gotta go home, guys. And then that they find out, she's the rightful princess. And she takes over. She takes her ruby slippers back, but she sends Dorothy home. But says,
Yeah.
but I'll check on you all the time. I've got my eyes on you.
Big brother magic going.
Yeah. Oh, and they're carrying the witch through the town square in a cage. And like I looked over at Felicia and I was doing like the shame, shame, the Game of Thrones.
Yes. That's a good add-on there. I like that.
Yeah, and the worst thing is the witch is like in a cage, gonna be locked up forever. But she's the one that explains, or no, someone who is carrying her, a random character explains she's the rightful Queen Dawes. Like, why did you know this and didn't tell anybody? Random guard.
Like no one asked.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you said, she's back home and she's checking on her through the mirror. Toto's there and we're good.
Yeah,
Happy
no
ending.
one seems to care anymore. I mean, there was the whole part where they find her on the side of the creek.
Yeah,
and
like
everyone's
because the whole place like flooded in the storm and crashed away.
yeah. So and the
Oh,
asylum burnt down.
the asylum burned down and the only person they couldn't find was Dorothy. And it's like
Yeah.
6 months after they couldn't find her after a tornado like tore apart the house.
You know, if a tornado tries to kill her and a flood tries to kill her,
And a fire.
and a fire, you might start to question if this child is cursed.
Early 1900s, she's just a daughter. They would have sold her to like a circus and been like, see, the invincible girl.
See the
Go
girl
ahead.
who-
Go ahead. Light her on fire. She'll be fine.
It's the girl that brings tragedy with her.
Yeah, the tragedy girl. Either one. Early 1900s, they in a small town, they may have still burned her as a witch.
Yeah, I did have that thought actually. It's like, oh, good, they found her. Now they can.
I mean,
burn
it's turn of the century, but I mean,
her. Mm-hmm.
there's some small towns in rural America that would probably still, you get out to West Virginia, they'd probably still burn her as a witch.
Oh, West Virginia, don't hate us. We love you.
No one there's watching. They don't have the internet. Hasn't made it that far yet. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give my watch rating because not a rewatch rating. I'm gonna say, John, I don't know. The kids would call this mid. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like torture to watch. But where the hell was the singing? I missed the singing and I missed the dance in A Wizard of Oz. It didn't have the magic. I'd give it a 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5. It was just okay. It wasn't torture to watch, but I would not rewatch it.
That's fair. That is fair. I will admit that the reason why I really brought it up is because I found out that Disney had it.
Disney
and I was
Plus.
like, oh, I can. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can
to
rewatch this.
Disney Plus, so it was cheap and easy to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, oh, I gotta share this with Trevor.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I had forgotten all about it, and it's a little pertinent, I guess, or timely because the new movie version of Wicked is coming out soon, which my wife's still trying to convince me is good. I got a degree in theater. I love musicals. I hate the concept of Wicked and don't want to watch it. It just seems stupid.
I never saw the stage production, but I did read the book, and the book wasn't half bad.
Trey Parker likes it from South Park.
Yeah.
It's his favorite musical, but I don't know. I'll have to give it another try. Story sounds stupid, but that doesn't mean the music's not good. I mean, Cats had a really crappy story, but has good music. The rantings of an insane, of T.S. Eliot's insane takes on Cats turned into a musical.
Yeah.
So, John, what was your rewatch rating of this? Having set through it again after it being one of your favorite childhood movies.
So I will agree with you that the majority of the scenery is not that impressive,
Mhm.
except for when they were in the witch's tower and all the glass, mirrors. That was very 80s, but it was like
Yep.
a pretty appealing 80s. So that part, neat.
Mhm.
We forgot to mention that near the beginning, when she first gets there, she finds the old uh, house that landed on the witch.
Mhm.
That looked like a house that literally had been dropped in there. So that was neat.
I missed that
Um,
part, honestly.
it's there for like a minute. She's just like, oh look, talking to the chicken. She's like, this is the house that I first arrived in, and that spot right there is where I crushed the other witch. It's just a tidbit, but
She
I
had
was
that
like,
coming to her.
it was just kind of like, oh, that's a cool little add-on thing. Thanks for putting that in there. But yeah, the rest of the scenery, they definitely did not put a big budget into it. I'm pretty sure when they're walking through the ruins of the Emerald City, they just went to like a park that had ruins already.
Even when they brought the Emerald City back, it didn't look like the Emerald City. It looked more like,
Yeah,
I don't
just
know, like
fancy
downtown
building.
normal city. It's not
Yeah,
Emerald.
yeah, it just looked like a fancy building or
Yeah.
whatever they were in. But the characters, like I said, TikTok, one of my childhood favorite characters. Jack, I thought that puppetry looked really cool.
Mhm.
Things like that. The claymation they used for the Gnome King and the henchmen, they were tacky, but they were fun. And the Wheelers were very still trauma inducing. You see one of those
Good way to
guys, and
scare a child.
oh, yes. So did the storyline make a lot of sense? No. Could I follow it? Mostly. So there's a lot of confliction there between crappy and fun. And so I think I come back to like a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. That's a strong score, John.
But the parts that I enjoyed of the movie, I really enjoyed.
No, that's
But
fair.
the parts that were bad were really bad.
Yeah. Needed more dancing, more singing, and a lot more Toto. 50
A lot more
times more
Toto.
Toto. Because
I
Toto
agree.
was adorable.
Less chicken, more Toto.
And at the end, the beards. There was so many people with fake beards that were so fake.
I wasn't paying attention to that.
It was like, either grow a beard or don't wear one. It was like bad, like Santa Claus beards from like like a holiday shop or something. A lot of them had, like, a lot of the
Yeah.
soldiers. Well, thank you so much, John. Thank you for making me watch this instant classic, I guess, or whatever, or
I'm happy that you agreed
sequel
to
to
it.
a classic. And thank
Yeah.
you again for being on to boost my subscribers, because every time you're on, I get a couple more. We're getting there,
Come
close
on,
to 100.
people.
Close.
Bring it up. Bring it
Yeah,
up.
getting close to 100, which is completely meaningless. 100. Felicia's joking, saying it's going to be the or we've been saying the crate paper play button instead of the like I think it's like 100,000. You get like the silver play button. We're going to get the crate
Yeah.
paper one.
It's not even that. It's just a little piece of aluminum that they stamped it onto.
Play button.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, John. If you liked this video, everyone, like and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, still like and subscribe. We could use it. I will take your pity likes and subscribes. Or dislike the video. I don't care. Engagement's engagement. Leave positive feedback for John. Rob wasn't in this video, but leave your hate comments for him, please. And
Always.
yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Bye.
Bye bye.